Hi, I'm Curry Bradshaw. Welcome to Bradshaw and Frenns. Today we have a powerhouse of a guest. I'm so excited to have her here. She is a serial entrepreneur. She is the owner and founder of her own law firm. She's the founder of a tech company. She is an angel investor. She is a keynote speaker. She is an executive producer of her own film production company. Not to mention, she's also a mother of two and has impeccable style, if I do say so myself. Please welcome Nital Gosai.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited too. We're going to dive right into it.
Let's go.
Because you do 52 million things, and I don't know if we're going to have time. So you're a serial entrepreneur, like I mentioned. You have 3 business ventures: Gosai Law, Husmates, Gosai Productions, plus you're an angel investor. You've accomplished all of that by yourself, which I think is incredible. But before we get into any of your business ventures, I want to talk about your personal story a little bit, which I think is super admirable, and not many people would know about you depending on how they've met you. And also because of how people perceive you as a super successful person, so maybe they put you on a pedestal. So one of the things I noticed when we met is that you have this like really atypical story, especially as a South Asian woman, being a South Asian woman myself, that most people maybe are hesitant to talk about publicly. And I think that's really admirable. And I relate to that a lot as a stand-up comic. I've had certain situations like, you know, having an abusive mother, being estranged from my family members, being forced to wear a hijab, that I think like I wasn't really hearing when I was growing up. So being able to do that now is a way for people to like see themselves in me, but also relate to that experience. So I want to talk about that in relation to you. So you have had this incredible story. You have a father who was a successful businessman who owned a print shop in Canada, but lost the business as a result of his struggle with mental health. How did that change the course of your family's life?
Oof. Okay. Well, before we get started, I just want to say I'm so happy to be here with you. And it is difficult for people like us to talk openly about difficult things that we've experienced. So I'm really glad that we're doing this. Okay. So yeah, you know, mental health and symptoms that were clear indicators of mental health back when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s were not widely known to people. And they were certainly not widely known nor accepted by the South Asian community. 100%. So if you were exhibiting what we now know are signs of mental health illness, you know, the South Asian community, and specifically even my family and extended family, were of the opinion that someone had done some black magic to you. That this was as a result of you not being spiritual enough, or this was as a result of, I'm not even joking, like you eating meat because you've now inherited all of this, you know, all of the bad kind of feelings and experience that the animal felt when the animal was killed for your consumption.
Right.
So for years and years and years, my dad, now that I think about it, you know, my earliest memory of probably seeing and experiencing my father's symptoms, whether it was anger, rage, you know, him drinking too much, whatever it was. My first earliest memory of that is when I'm 4 or 5.
Hey.
And then, you know, it's not until I'm 13, 14 that we start getting help. So just imagine it's over a decade that my mother, who's a, you know, literally a child bride when she got married to my dad, she was 16, is taken from a small village in India and brought here to Canada and has 3 kids at this stage. When my dad's first starting to exhibit these signs, she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't have the tools, and the community is not speaking of, hey, this could be something that a doctor can help you with. So for a decade, we just went through these cycles of violence and sadness and heightened, you know, moments where there was anger. And so finally, when I was 13, I remember it got so bad that the police had to get involved. And it was then, for the very first time, that once the police got involved, they recognized, okay, this is not a violent criminal. This is someone that clearly is suffering from mental health concerns or issues. And my father, instead of ending up at the police station, ends up at the hospital.
Right.
And that's the introduction for the very first time into my family of, this is a medical concern, or this is a medical condition.
Yeah.
Yet the nucleus, the family, and all of the values and the traditions and the extended family would not still believe it. So we were on this quest to get my dad exorcised, to take him to India and to Africa, to have him seen by modern day shamans, we would understand them to be, to help exorcise this bad spirit that's taken over his body. So the experience for my family in dealing with my dad's mental health issues was so insane.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was the worst because, or it was made worse by people that just didn't know what to do to help my dad. And we were children, so we were just, experiencing this firsthand, but having absolutely no control over how to assist or anything like that. And so how did it change us? Well, I mean, again, I was probably 18 when my dad finally was like, okay, company's belly up. But by that point, we had been through the court systems because of my dad's mental health concerns and issues. He had finally been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, anger, mood. There was, I can't remember exactly what the diagnoses were, but those were kind of the main ones. Severe depression. We had gone through years of massive, massive outbursts. My dad, unfortunately, would leave the house in the middle of the night and we wouldn't know where he is. We would, have a search party, go out and look for him for hours on end. I remember a period of time in this time before 18 that I'm living with my dad at our Toronto house by myself. Because he's now become a danger to my mom. He's become a danger at this point now. I have a baby sister. He's a danger to her. So he's been removed from that space. And I'm in university first year, 18 or 19, and dad's living with me. And it's that time, 18 or 19, dad's living with me. Me and my older brother realized that the company's not going to survive this. That we finally see him kind of put his hands up and say, okay, I'm gonna remove myself from this business. And so he filed for bankruptcy. And it's overnight that your life just changes. Just changes. We were at that time, the family house was in Oakville. We were still this upper middle class family. Despite dealing with the mental health issues, the business was still going. And so everything was taken. Cars were taken away. Financial support that we used to have from my dad to get through school and university, that was all taken away.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I feel like most people wouldn't know that story about you.
Absolutely not.
Right?
Absolutely not.
Another story I actually want to get into is something we've spoken about quite a bit as well, is another thing that people wouldn't know about you is that you also had a marriage at some point later in life, and 2 children, and you were stuck in an abusive relationship for quite some time, and you dealt with that privately until you finally left. As a survivor of abuse myself, I know how all-consuming and suffocating being in an abusive relationship could be. So why do you think it's so difficult for survivors to leave?
That's a good question, and a very, very good point that it is very difficult for me to talk about this publicly and say, I'm a survivor, because you're right. I'm a member of a industry where you are revered for your strength and for your capacity to work even harder. And when you are the owner of a law firm and you are so strong and you are incredibly capable of formulating, articulating great arguments and your positions in the world. A litigation lawyer, it's what I do all day long. It is very difficult for people to even start to understand why someone like you would stay. And I think that the answer is a very, like, there's no simple answer, right? I'm informed by the system, the South Asian culture, the system that I was raised in. I'm informed by my experiences. I'm informed by the fact that, my family lost, this big position that we had in the social world, which was that we were this upper middle class Gujarati family that people would look up to, and then we lost it. So I'm informed by the expectation inside of my nucleus that I will help us out of this, that I will find us back, onto that social, or back to occupying that social space that we once had. So I wasn't just married to anybody. I was married to a physician, a hospital physician. And so in the South Asian culture, that is like, all right, that's perfect. We've got our lawyer daughter. She's married to a South Asian doctor. And, culturally we are similar, and they live in this beautiful house. And so I was informed by expectations, and I was informed by the things that I was taught, which is that women endure. I was also informed by the things that I saw, which was that despite suffering at the hands of my father, and despite, even though that was because he had mental health issues, that he was abusive towards my mom, I still didn't know that as a child. What I saw as a child and what was normalized for me inside of my family was that women are abused. And when they are abused, they still fight for their partners and they still stay. Now, I'm not saying that I was going to stay. The moment that the abuse started, which was when my children were infants, I knew I was going to leave. But for me, it was a matter of time, and it was making sure that I was doing right by my children, and that I was doing right by my family, and believe it or not, that I was doing right by his family, because he had a mother and father that were aging, or that were aged, who were living with us. So I didn't want to take that on. Their son is acting independently in the way that he would abuse me, but that is not their fault. That is not their fault. And they don't even know that he's doing that. And how they're informed is that if I go to them, they're probably not going to be able to take my side, because they've leaned into and relied on their son for so many years and for so long that they will not be capable of understanding my side of the story, not because it's their fault, but just because of their family system. And so those are some of the reasons why I didn't leave, not to mention letting my family down, severing this thing that is so valued in our society. And when I would go to the temple, our priest, that's been my priest since I was a baby, would always say, "Hey, lawyer, and where's the doctor, Saab?" And Saab means sir, like, where's the doctor, sir? We were just we were held on at a high regard in our community. And so for me to sever it meant I was severing all of that, and not just for myself, but also the pride that my parents felt in saying, "Oh, this is my daughter, and she's married to a doctor, and they live in this neighborhood, and it's all of those things."
Totally. And it's so complicated when you have children, marriage, communities involved, families intertwined. It's not as easy as just picking up and leaving. And I totally can see how perception, prestige in society, all of those things impact the ability to leave as well. So there's a lot to consider. I read an interview with singer-songwriter FKA Twigs, and she was in a very public abusive relationship, which she talks about quite a bit with Shia LaBeouf. And she talked about the fact that she hated the question of, like, why did you stay versus why did you leave? And she was like, you don't ask someone in a car accident why they were in the car, you know? So why would you ask this question? So, you know, I'd like to ask you, what was it the moment that I know you said you knew that you were going to leave, but when you finally did leave, how did you know, especially with 2 children in tow?
Yeah, I was forced to leave because something so significant took place, and it was violent. And when the incident occurred, I remember kind of catching my breath and getting up from a position of incredible vulnerability after the incident had occurred, and almost feeling like I just blacked out. And then when I came back into realizing what had just happened, I knew that I could be one more incident away from not making it. And I just knew that I could not explain that, you know, to my daughter or to my parents. You know, why would I stay in something where potentially the next time could be so bad that my life could end?
Yeah.
You know? Wow. And so it's so scary and so sad now that I think about it, that I left when I was forced to leave. And for me, there were lots of that's it. And I would say, okay, that's it. Like I'm done with this relationship. But I still hadn't taken the steps to leave because there was so much involved in leaving. And there was a level of shame and guilt, and I chose this person at the end of the day. I didn't get an arranged marriage. I'm a smart woman. I should have learned from my own family system, and I still made a mistake in picking someone like this. And so there was a lot of self-blame and, you know, what will they think of me? What and who the hell is they? I don't know who the they is, but what will they think of me? And so I feel like that day when this incident occurred, that's it. It was that night. I was like, you know, things settled, and I just told him, this is it. It's it, because we are doing something to each other that neither of us want to leave that legacy behind for our children to inherit. Neither of us want that. And so even though this person was abusive, this person also was informed by his trauma and by his life and by the pressures that he felt. And I could understand often why he would behave the way that he did, or you know, and I'm certainly not making excuses for bad behavior, but I am saying that I can empathize. Right? So thank God I was forced to leave.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, I know it's not easy to talk about out loud. But I do think, like, hopefully in people hearing this story, they'll understand, like, you know, no matter what position you're in, no matter what circumstance you come from, you can, you know, be caught in this, but you can also leave. And shout out to you for leaving. And you live a very different life now. So
I do live a very different life. And, you know, I just want to also say that it wasn't that every day of my marriage was filled with abuse. It wasn't. There were key moments in that relationship, as most relationships have. You know, there's moments of abuse and awfulness for those of us that are experiencing that. But for me, there were also moments of happiness. It's not that it was just one thing, which then makes your decision to leave harder. Right? So but yeah, I live a very different life, and you know, me and my ex are in a fantastic place, believe it or not.
That's amazing.
We co-parent our children incredibly well, and I feel like out of that marriage, he's happier and I'm happier. And so we have found our new normal.
Yeah.
And our new normal is just really lovely for
That's
our
amazing.
children. Yeah, we still go out, you know, just the four of us, and we do things together, and we make sure that we tell the kids that we're a family. And I think that the children, what's so important is that the children didn't see any of it.
Right.
They didn't see it. They didn't hear it.
Yeah.
And I just feel really glad
Yeah.
that this will not,
Yeah.
this legacy will not continue.
Yes. Yeah, that's incredible. And it's also really rare to like come to that place in a relationship that you had with someone and be able to like do that. So it's like,
Takes a lot of love.
yeah.
And for me, it's the love for the kids.
Yeah.
It's them. They
Right.
guide my decisions around how I behave with their dad.
Fair.
Yeah.
It's a different perspective. You have
Totally.
to consider these other humans in your
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. One of the things I wanted to talk about is shame and stigma, which we've kind of talked about quite a bit in the South Asian community. How do you think, like, us as the next generation of South Asian women specifically, which I think is a very distinct experience, how can we change the mentality around stigma and shame, whether it's around mental health, whether it's about abuse? How do we come out of that? How do we help each other, support each
Talk
other?
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about it. I think the biggest deterrent is when you feel, the biggest deterrent in coming out about anything that is not the norm is feeling like you're the only one.
Yeah.
Okay? And then the fear around how people will receive that and how they will respond to it, whoever they are. And I think the more we honor our truths and honor our experiences and don't fear, you know, reprimand directly or indirectly, or fear judgment directly or indirectly, that there will be more shared, and we will continue to work towards making sure that we don't attach judgment to people's real life experiences.
Yeah.
You know, because I think that then that stops us as a society, and specifically as a segment of the society, which is South Asian society, from moving forward and growing and doing things to support our people, like truly foundationally supporting them.
Yeah.
So I think the more you talk, the more people know, the more people say, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that about her. Well, I've experienced something too. And then there's this snowball effect of sharing that happens.
Yeah.
And we're not sharing so that we can bond over only the sadness that we've experienced. We're sharing so we can learn how to overcome it, how to learn to be there for ourselves, how to learn to create boundaries and respect our own boundaries.
Yeah.
Just learn from each other, you know?
Totally.
So, yeah.
And celebrate joy, I think, too.
100%.
You know, like, yes, there's all this trauma and all this stuff, but it's like out of that can also come
100%.
immense joy.
100%.
You know? So I think that it's really, you know, that's what life is all about. Talking about it, sharing. So I really love that you do that. You're a mother now. How has your childhood upbringing, your personal childhood upbringing, impacted the way that you parent today? And how does that also bleed into the way you do business?
What my mother's raising of us and fierce determination to keep the family unit together, even at a time when my father's mental health illness was at its height, she was the one that he would target to abuse physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
That woman did not stop keeping us together. She did not ever let us look at our dad and feel necessarily ill towards him. She just like made us come together and fight for him to get better. And so I always say, like, my mother is the OG of resilience. She's like the OG of what resilience looks like.
Yeah.
And so she's taught us so much, even though when we were younger, we were like, why don't you just leave him? This is crazy.
Yeah.
We now understand that she was guided by her spirituality, which was rooted in you don't leave people when they're in need.
Right.
And so I raise my children on a lot of those teachings or those learnings rather for me.
Yeah.
But also my parents had very limited information around how to, raise confident, happy children who felt and believed that they were unconditionally loved.
Right.
I think one of the South Asian, and I'm sure this is true of a lot of other cultures, but one of the key features of the South Asian relationship between parent and child is one of conditional love.
100%.
Okay, so if you do this, then I will love you.
100%.
And I was also raised in that environment where if you become a lawyer, then I will love you and respect you. But if you choose to do something other than what I think you should do, then I will not love you.
Yeah.
And even though, those words weren't expressly used, in the actioning and in the way that the information was being processed by us as children, it was clear. If we didn't do what you wanted us to do, we weren't going to be loved by you.
Right.
And so I am changing that for my children.
Yeah.
Absolutely no way, Jose, on my watch are my children going to think that my love for them is conditional upon anything. Like, even if they mess up, I will take the time to explain to them, look, like I'm not okay with what you did here, but it will always start with, I love you.
Yeah.
Because I think more than anything, more than getting them into the best private school and giving them the best education and making sure that they're living in a neighborhood where they have access and generally have access, I think the most important thing to build good people is for people, children especially, to feel loved and secure and therefore be confident, because when they have those characteristics as they move through the world, especially now, we don't know what direction the world is heading in. Exactly. It is those things that are going to help them confidently make decisions, always know that they have home to go to, and then just create a world for them that just feels like it's guided by things that matter.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Which is love.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, because there's things that our parents taught us that we're taking, and then it sounds like you're reinventing new versions that you maybe had gaps in when you were growing up, and you're trying to fulfill that with your children, and I think that's really beautiful.
And also just telling them, like, this is the one thing I wish my mom would have told me, because she was trying to raise me when she was, 19.
Yeah.
I would have wished that she would have told me, I became a mom. This is what I tell my kids. I became a mom the day you were born. You did not come with a guidebook.
Right.
Or Cole's Notes version of what my job is going to be in relation to you.
Yeah.
We are learning. You're learning how to be a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm learning for the first time how to be a mom.
Right.
And I'm going to make mistakes, and there's going to be issues along the way, but we're going to talk about it and we're going to sort it out together. Okay. So saying sorry to your children and leading by example, by showcasing to them that you too make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Mistakes are there to be made, but it's how you come from what you learn and how you come back from those mistakes and how you communicate about them that really defines, I think, character, good character versus sometimes not so.
Yeah. So how has motherhood impacted the way you do business?
Because I understand how important both my kids, 2 kids, they're just so different. And the way in which I will get through to one is not the same as the other.
Right.
Of course, that makes sense. They're individuals, right? And so even before having children, I always knew that I was meant to be a mom. Like, I have this very natural, very loud, very prominent maternal instinct. I've always had, I also have a very younger than me sister.
Right.
And so I helped raise her.
Fair.
So it was built into my experience as a young person how to account for someone else's feelings, how to account for someone that may not be in the same position as me, it's my younger sister, and how to manage that.
Yeah.
And so I was definitely, prior to the kids, running the company from a place of empathy, compassion, and love anyway.
Yeah.
But all of that became more clear, heightened and more clear once I became a mom.
Right.
You know? So just checking in with people, like doing the things that we do with children to make sure that they're okay, that they're taken care of emotionally, functionally, all of those things. There's no reason why we can't bring those same philosophies in how we deal with children into our organizations.
Yeah.
We are sure not dealing with children, but we are dealing with people. And whether you're a child or an adult, people want to feel connected. They want to feel seen.
Yeah.
They want to feel heard. And they truly want to feel understood.
Yeah.
And so it's learning how to do that with my children, really with clarity and purpose and intention, that I've now been very easily like bring it into the company structure as well.
Yeah, I love that. So speaking about that, we're going to now get into your businesses a little bit. So I want to talk about Gosai Law, which is your female forward law firm, which I think is incredible. You started this law firm at 27 years old.
I did.
What makes a 27-year-old decide they want to start a law firm?
Yeah, I think some of it, I have to give it to my dad. I think some of this entrepreneurial spirit that I have has been, I've inherited it from my dad. So it was always inside of me. Like even when I was 18, I was like, oh, I'm going to own this business and that business. And when I was in law school, well, I now know because I've gone back to some of my law school friends and be like, did I say this to you? And they were like, yeah, you did. So even in law school, I would say things like, oh, you know, I'm going to work for somebody for a year or two and then I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to start my own venture.
Wow, you knew that.
So I knew, like,
Wow.
I just knew.
Yeah.
I think I was about 22 when I was saying those things. I was 22 when I started law school. I was definitely saying them at 23. So what kind of pushed me at 27 to just go and do it was I was at this, I was kind of like at this point in my career, in my very, very early career. I'd already put in about 2 years at a firm and I'd seen the corporate firm structure. One, at the very top sat a lot of men. Also at the very top sat more men that wanted to dictate how the rest of us should do business.
Right.
And a lot of that business and the values that the firm kind of deployed and forced their lawyers to abide by did not feel good to me.
Right.
You know, it was very you've got to make this much money, you've got to earn this, and it wasn't client centered, it was bottom line centered, it was money motivated, which I can assure you I am money motivated. Like, let's not get it twisted. I'm money motivated, but not at the expense of doing good work. I'm money motivated, but we can do good work and still be money motivated. So I was feeling all kinds of things. I was also feeling like I'm not going to be given a real opportunity inside of this place.
Right.
The writing on the wall was very clear that, you know, I was just never going to get a proper shot.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to leave, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I remember just, you know, taking a stroll with my assistant at the time, and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do my own thing. I'm just going to get an office, and I'm going to put my name on it, and then I'm just going to open it up for business. And it really, I'll be honest, like when you're young, you're fearless.
Yeah.
You don't have a family, you don't have a mortgage necessarily, which I did at that time, but that's a separate story. But you're fearless, right? The world, so much of the world and so much of your life is still ahead of you.
Yeah.
So I just was like, I'm going to do it. And then I just took the steps and I just did it without really thinking about what the downside could be.
Right.
You know? I thought about it in passing, but not really.
Not in the moment.
Not really.
Yeah. And I think maybe that is a nod to your dad's entrepreneurial spirit, because entrepreneurial spirits are the types of people that just do, and they think about everything kind of a little bit later.
Yeah.
But in like the best way.
Yeah.
So, you know, what I really like about you is that you're a creator of your own opportunities. And I think that's so admirable. And I relate a lot to, I see so many parallels between our work, even though what we do is completely different. But in stand-up comedy, certainly, you know, there's a lot of relatability of it being very male-dominated, very white. And so I started doing this show called Bradshaw and Frenns. I didn't even know, same as you. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to make my own show because no one's booking me. No one thinks I'm funny, but I need to practice and I need to get my reps in. And so I started creating this show called Bradshaw and Frenns, and I have a regular residency now at a hotel, and it's awesome. And I've also made it a point to specifically focus on women of color, queer folks, people of color. And, you know, you have a similar sort of intention with Gosai Law. You have a female forward law firm. Why was that important to you to make sure that it was female forward?
Yeah. Because my experience as a woman inside of a law firm that, like I said, at the decision-making level was predominantly men. My experience there was that I wasn't invited to the table to talk or to share my thoughts, or to the dinner that that the guys were having, or to the golf course trip that the guys were taking.
Right.
I remember feeling really excluded from what felt like the inner circle. And I also felt very objectified. At the same time that I'm being excluded, I am included when you want to objectify me.
Yeah.
You want to talk about my looks. You want to talk about, things that are completely unrelated to my job. And so it was I think the female experience is unique. It's unique to women.
Yeah.
And for me, having a law firm where I would honor the fact that we have unique experiences, that I would listen, learn from people that were inside of the firm, but also create a space where women didn't have to choose between, having families and bearing children and their careers. Like all of that at that age was really kind of playing on my mind, because I was, getting to my 30s and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have a family one day, because I knew I wanted to have children. And what will that look like for me?
Yeah, right.
Will I lose, my position in my career, whatever that is at that time? So that's why I was just, and to be honest, I've worked with so many women now for so many years.
Yeah.
And I just knew that the way women work, fundamentally the way women work is very different to the way men work.
100%.
And I really value the way women work.
Yeah, I love that. So I want to talk about something that is a little complicated, but is true, which is female competition. So I don't necessarily think female competition is a bad thing. And it's a lot more common and normal that we think, especially in a society that tends to pit women against each other. But because you are so focused on having a female forward law firm, how do you sort of eliminate or maybe mediate conflict between women, if any? And also, do you think female competition is a construct?
Yeah. Okay. So I have met some incredible and super successful women that are kind of the same vintage as me. And what that means is that, we were born in the late 70s, early 80s, and scarcity amongst women when it came to certain positions inside of big org, big corp, even legal, medicine was a thing. It was a thing. And so you had a bunch of women, vying for this, like maybe 2 or 3 opportunities at the very top. And so it did brew this kind of, competition that is not one that we're like, let that, it's not good competition, right? Like it was ugly competition. And it was, I think, based on fear. So I have this like theory about fear. When people act in fear or they act out of fear, you know, we act abnormally and we act in a way that we wouldn't ordinarily.
Right.
So with that background, in my view, I definitely think that female competition is a social construct. It's also it's an environmental response, or it's like a social response to an environment that was created over decades, years, millennia, potentially even, as it related to women in the workforce.
Yeah.
And so back to what I was saying about meeting so many successful women of the same vintage as me, they all say the same thing. As they were coming up, they had this horrible experience with other women that were coming up. And even though I'm of the same vintage, I chose a different path. So I don't have corporate experience. I didn't have to beat another woman out or compete with another woman for that one job that was, you know, that was secured there or reserved for a woman to occupy. So I don't have that same outlook and experience, and therefore I bring in my perspective, which is that I intentionally curated a space for women by a woman, because I don't want to have that narrative continue to play itself out in 2025 as we are raising young women. Like, ladies, there's no place for that kind of scarcity, fear-driven, ugly like there's no not today. Do I understand it and honor it back then, and I understand why it may have been the reality for so many women and the experience for them? Sure, I get it. But we are not there. And as women, we are so much more powerful when we come together. When we come together. And so I know this. And so I'm just spreading the word.
Spreading the word.
Yeah,
you have to.
And sorry, the balance of your question about how do I resolve conflict? Well, you know, mirroring is the best thing ever, right? Like, I believe in mirroring. I also believe in setting an example. So first, I'm setting the example. I'm a woman. No, like I want to hire great talent. If it's like best idea in the room wins. I don't care that I am the chief of the ship. I don't care that I'm the captain. I don't care that I'm the CEO, the principal. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. At the end of the day, we sit around a round table, and it's the best idea that's going to win, in my view. And it's not going to be based on my judgment of what the best idea is. It's going to be open for open discussion. And we're all going to decide that that's the right thing for us to do, or that's the best idea. And so when you're leading with that being the foundation of how you're leading, I think people let their guards down. They're happy to really shine. They're happy to express their true selves and who they are and what they want. And so that's not to say that we don't have in every organization. I think, you know, same way that I would try to, at this point, mediate between my 9 and 10-year-old, it's really the same principles that I use at the firm. You know, tell me what's really bothering you, what's at the root of the issue, what are the feelings that are involved, and what is it that you want? What are your objectives? What would you like to see happen? You know, you got to get people talking. Talk openly about what you want, what hurt you. Feelings are important, you know. We are not running these organizations and saying that your feelings don't matter. No, quite the opposite. Your feelings matter. Your feelings matter. What you want for yourself matters, and what inspires you like all of it matters. So let's just talk.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think women, you know, really powerful, strong leadership type people, women who have leadership qualities, I think the best part about it is equalizing the level playing field. And I think women do that in a very distinct and specific way that really like is incredible to see in all areas, all industries, all that stuff. So it's amazing that you do that. I want to circle back to a point that you made about, being in a male-dominated space, particularly in law firms, especially when you were starting out. So one of the things I talk about in stand-up a lot is pretty privilege, which is a very interesting topic because depending on the audience, maybe they like it, maybe they don't like what you're saying. I make an effort to dress up on stage all the time. And for me, it's like a reclamation of power. And at least at the beginning, it's a way for me to get attention from people, at least at first glance, and then they'll have to listen to what I have to say. But I talk about that experience particularly because, there's a huge chunk of my life I was forced to wear a hijab for a really long time and clothes I didn't want to wear. And then I came out of that and I stopped wearing the hijab and started choosing what I wanted to wear. And that was like the empowering aspect and why largely I dress up on stage. And pretty privilege is also something that happened that I didn't expect and didn't know how to deal with. There's no like guidebook for this kind of stuff, but I do want to talk about it because I feel like people don't talk about it enough. So yes, there's pretty privilege. It is a privilege at the end of the day. And there are perks. But what are the negative sides of having a face card that doesn't decline?
First of all, thank you for that very nice compliment. I think for me, recognizing that I had pretty privilege was an important step to understanding my positionality compared to other people, first of all. And that there is power in all of these things. So there's power, in your socioeconomic upbringing, and, you derive power from how you look, you derive power from who your friends are. Like all of these things put you in a position of just a little bit more power or a little bit more influence. And so I accepted that I had pretty privilege. Secondary to having actually a very difficult conversation with my older brother, who was trying to explain to me that his experience as a gay brown man was nothing like the experience I had had growing up. And that my confidence came from having been told my whole life that I was pretty. And so even though as a family we endured all of these really difficult things, I always was and continue to be extremely confident. And so in having this difficult discussion with my brother, where, at that age when we were having it, this is like definitely more than 10 years ago, and I was like, pretty privilege, don't reduce it down to that, right? Because we feel like if you're telling me that, well, I just got here because I have pretty privilege, well, that's reducing it right down to something that is now not in my control, and not factoring in how hard I worked, how difficult this was, and all of those other things. But now, as a grown woman, as a learned person, pretty privilege is a real thing. There is enough data out there that shows us, done by really great, or like psychometric testing that we would all not dispute, that does absolutely say that if you are conventionally pretty, and if people perceive you as pretty, you are more believable, you will get deals done at a higher rate than your counterparts. And that for a long time, this related more to women than it did to our male counterparts, right? This whole idea that men can be fat and ugly, and I'm just saying that like that's not my data, just the data says that, men can be of whatever, they could look however, and they would still be accepted in these roles, and they would be given them, and a lot of that is based on who they knew and what their experience was. For women, if you were prettier, then the door would be opened for you. Sure, you'd have to maybe close the deal, but that the doors would open for you and people would trust you more. Now, for me, I don't dispute that I have that. I honor it. I thank my parents and the universe and all of the things that I have this, but I really try to use it for all the good things that I continue to do. Build the business, bring in business into the company, make sure that I'm, continuously supporting the women that work at the firm by building it and being in spaces where people will listen to me. And if you're going to listen to me because I look this way,
Yeah.
Great.
Great.
I don't care.
I love that.
I have a lot of important things to say. So if that's the way, sure, let's go.
Yeah.
100%.
100%. I love that. I want to talk about Husmates a little bit. So you are the founder of a prop tech company called Husmates, and it is a platform where people can sort of like Tinder match, but for home ownership and co-owning a home. How did that come into the picture?
Yeah. So I'm a co-founder.
Co-founder. Right.
The idea actually was something that was developed by one of our other founders, Leslie Gaynor, and she is the Canadian national expert on co-ownership being an alternative home ownership model. Now, my brother and I have two brothers, but I have an older brother who's 13 months older than me, and we literally behave like twins. So we've done a lot of things together, including business ventures that we've engaged in together. And this is one other business venture that we are doing together. But a bit of a backstory is that as we were going through, feeling housing insecure when Dad's business went belly up, and we were, having to make these decisions around selling our home in Oakville, and we used to have a house in the city, and having to consider selling that and thinking to ourselves, oh my God, are we ever going to have housing security? What my brother and I did is we started to band together, share finances, and do home ownership together. We've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
So bought our first house in the city when we were like in our mid-20s, and then have continued to do that. And today own a beautiful house where we are here today. That's a duplex in the city of Toronto that we bought together, and he lives in his unit downstairs with his husband. And even though I raised my kids out of the city, I have this place, one as security into the future, but also as a safe place for me and the children to come to when we want to get away from the day-to-day of, whatever that life is. So really just wanting to bring this idea that you can share finances and get on the home ownership ladder when you do it with people sooner rather than later was really important to us. And that's what has really kind of been the reason to why we started Husmates, is because we want to bring what we've done and the financial security that we now have because of what we've done to everyone.
To everyone, yeah. And it's like real estate is, everyone's always talking about how expensive it is. And this is such an innovative way to think of like, how can people band together with the intention of community?
100%.
And, get the equity that they need and a property that they can finally call their own.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. I want to talk about, the tech space also being another male-dominated space and being a co-founder of Husmates. How is it being a female founder? What are the challenges there?
So the tech bros didn't get the memo. Whatever's happened in the last 10 years,
they're still
the tech bros. They were in an igloo somewhere in Alaska, and they just did not get the memo.
Crazy.
So what I find, or what I have found the most astonishing, is just how tech continues to be so male heavy, male centric, and men that have become really, really successful in this space just exclude women, and they'll do it openly. They're powerful people, and it is the wackiest thing, the wackiest. But the resistance has been growing, and what's been happening over the last decade, definitely, is that female groups are merging and finding a way to support other women that are in tech. And there's lots and lots of venture capitalists and angel investors and groups that are being created whose mission is only to support women in tech. And I think that it's important, and it's time. I mean, it was time long time ago, but like we'll take it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it is tough being a woman in the tech space. Like I have a lot of male friends in the space, and I can tell you that even they acknowledge how difficult it is at some of these big tech conferences.
Yeah.
You know, they'll go and they'll say, there was 3 women speakers, and about 60 men.
Yeah.
Why is that still happening?
Crazy.
And when you're bringing a female on, if you're doing it to meet your quota and not doing it because you want to give her a platform, then that's also not helpful.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just rest at they didn't get the memo.
They didn't get the memo.
They didn't get the memo.
You know, and I did go to a tech conference recently, and just the energy of like a bro hosting it with like on rollerblades, I was like, all right, we're still doing this?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. I want to talk about, so you touched on it a little bit, which is angel investing, because you're also an angel investor. How did that come into the picture, and why is that important to you?
So I think that it started originally with this idea of diversifying your portfolio.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in a house where my dad did not diversify his portfolio, right? Like all of his eggs were in that business basket.
Right.
And we weren't taught financial literacy growing up. You know, we weren't taught that at school either. And then with the fall of the Gosai business at that time under my dad's direction, I think just learning from that and knowing that you got to diversify your portfolio. So for me, it was just like an organic next move to make sure that I'm investing not just in what the traditional banking system tells us to invest in or the stock market, but that I'm looking at the real opportunities, like the ones that are the creators of the magic that we know today, you know, things like Airbnb. Like somebody sat there one day and was like, I have this great idea. And so just wanting to get in at an early stage into these businesses that had these fantastic ideas, that was the original reason. But then focusing on women and angel and being an angel investor in women and what they wanted to build has just become the absolute focus for me. So it's about bringing women up, and if I can contribute to their growth at a time when, you know, the traditional VCs in the banking system won't, because they don't understand the vision, and because it's just so hard for women to get funded still because no one got the memo, that if I can help, then I want to be able to give back in that way.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, because you're one of the few that are doing that. So I think that's, shout out to you. I want to talk about something now, another venture that you have, because you have so many. You are the executive producer of your own film production company, Gosai Productions. You love the business of filmmaking. And where in all of law and tech, how did filmmaking come into the picture?
So the truth is that I just wanted to be an actor my whole life. Like I was told from when I was 5 that I was going to make a good lawyer. And that's good, because I'm very happy that I chose this profession, because it's, you know, there's so much value in having a profession that has allowed me to live the life and to give a life to my children, you know, that they have. So it's great. But I wanted to be an actor. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I mean, I'm a litigator, and maybe we can say that it's the same. It's almost the same, but it's not the same. And so my dream was, and continues to be an actor. Like that's what I want to do.
So cool.
And like maybe that dream will never see its full glory in this lifetime, but
you never know.
Never say never.
Never say never.
But I had to, at the very least, do it in this lifetime. Like I'm a big believer, you get one chance at this thing called life, you got to live it. You got to do all the things that are within your capacity, and everyone's capacity is different. So this is within my capacity. And so I was like getting to a certain age, and I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to make a film. I'm ready to be in the film, but I am going to put my business hat on. I do not want to make something at this stage, my first thing, that doesn't end up on a big streaming platform. So for me, it was, I wanted to be an actor my whole life. I think it's time that I do this. I'm not going to wait for some man to tell me yay or nay. Nope. So I'm going to self-fund it. I'm going to make it, and I'm going to make sure that I meet the objective, which is to at least get it onto a streaming platform as my first debut project.
And you did.
And I did.
You did. You made Judith X, which is on Amazon Prime and a bunch of other platforms. And, I heard that you did it in secret. Is that true?
Yeah, it was in secret. It was in secret.
Why did you do it in secret?
Yeah. It's very difficult for me still, to reconcile all of the desires that I have inside of me. And they're all just as loud as the other.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult for me to reconcile that when other people ask me, because the capitalist mentality that men created is that you can't have everything all at once.
Yeah.
And what they also created is this idea that unless you are hyper-focused on just one thing, you're never going to be good at it. You're never going to succeed at it. I beg to differ.
Yeah.
My guys, I beg to differ. The truth of the matter is that women operate completely differently.
Completely different.
How do you think that we manage 3 full-time jobs? Being a mom,
Yeah.
being a good parent, first of all, is a hard job. 100%. Being a parent, anyone can do. But being a good parent requires a lot of work, and it requires a lot of effort. And being a mom is even harder. Is even harder because you are often, and I'm not saying this is true of all family structures, but often the mother is the holder of the emotional kind of vessel for the children and for the home. And in my home, that is the role that I occupy.
Yeah, for sure.
So being secretive was because I didn't know how to explain to the world that I can do all of it.
Yeah.
That I can do it.
Yeah, I get
and that
that.
it's not going to be at the expense of anything else.
Yeah.
So I just had to do it. And then once it was done, say,
I did it.
See, did it affect anything else?
No. It's crazy to me when people always try to, specifically with women, try to put us in like one box or make us one-dimensional so bad. But also societally, we're told we can, because of that male corporate construct, that we are supposed to do the one thing and just do the one thing really well.
Yeah.
But I do think that is an inherently female characteristic also, is that we can do everything. And I think motherhood, or even, I'm childless, but like the act of creation lives inside of me, I think, because I am a woman, whether I have children or not. And I think that is something that's so unique to our experience. So I could totally see you doing that. So what's next for you? What are your dreams and your goals with Gosai Productions?
Make another film, whether it's a short or a feature. My first one was a feature. And because I let business, what I thought I needed to do from a business perspective, lead the narrative on that film and lead the decisions that I was making about the group that I put together to make that film, was great. And I'm proud of the process. I think for this next one, I want to be proud of the content.
Yes.
Right? And that's a big mental shift for someone who's in the business of making films.
Right.
You want to, I've made the shift. So for me this time, it's going to be being proud about the content.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
I could talk to you all day.
I can talk to you all day.
Well, we gotta go. So I just want to thank you so much for talking to me about all your business ventures. I'm so excited to see what you're gonna do. I know it's gonna be big things. This has been Bradshaw and Frenns. This has been Nital Gosai. We're signing out.
Bye.
Bye.